gain's higher this time. What's up, everybody? Dang, dude, that's really loud. What's up, everybody? What's up, my beautiful honeys? Welcome back to the No Dirty Podcast. This is Shooting the Shit Episode 2, NDSTS2. We've got a pretty special guest back in store for you again today, and along with some nice topics that are pretty relevant to the current film climate. So I want to introduce again, you know him from the Hate Blood episode, Rex Trogdon. What's up, Rex?
Good evening.
I know the music's really loud right now, but
I like it, though. Is this going to play for the entire hour?
Unfortunately not.
Oh, yeah, your fans will be disappointed.
It would get pretty old, I feel like. But this is actually, if you can't tell, it's the original Blade Runner soundtrack.
Okay, I thought it was just like an homage or something like that. Oh, really? Oh, well, all right.
I took like one...
You engineered that, too?
I took like 1 second, like slices from the song.
Nice.
Like, you hear how it's repeating?
Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and then I just added a drum beat behind it.
I didn't catch on to that. I'm a very big fan of Blade Runner.
Yeah. Hopefully I don't get sued for copyright, because I just admitted to using the soundtrack, but...
That's why...
I'm willing to roll the dice on this one.
Yeah.
For the fans.
Yes, that's right.
For the
honeys, specifically.
For the beautiful honeys, man.
Yeah.
That's what we do here. We do it all for the fans. But welcome back to the show, man.
Thanks for having me back.
No, yeah, thanks for being here. This is, I've told you before, but just to reiterate, like, people tell me that this episode of the show, or your episode of the show, is like one of the best ones.
Thanks, man.
Because anyone that knows you knows that you're really good at talking and articulating. And so I think that sense of, like, confidence in your words, I think that's what led to it being a successful episode of the show.
Thanks, man.
So,
well, I mean,
when I blow up and make millions of dollars, I'll be sure to throw some your way.
Okay.
So it's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. No, honestly,
I like almost $1.
To be honest, I want favors, not dollars. I want to be, but on whatever show you're hosting, I want a spot again. So
okay, well,
when I have something cool going on, then you can help me plug it. No dollars necessary.
Okay.
Just have a good craft table.
I'll remember that.
Okay.
When you're asking me for commissions, just remember that you.
I asked for favors. No, I mean that. I want favors, not money.
Hey, man, I'm just saying, keep it in mind.
Right. Okay.
It might come back to bite you in the future. So.
No, I run my own hustle, but I do appreciate that. Thank you,
dude. We were talking before we started recording. We were talking about Dragonball Z.
Yeah. And
we were actually like, because I feel like I knew you were a Dragonball fan, but. Have we ever talked about it before?
Probably not. No, I don't think so.
I mean, you were talking about how you've never seen Super before.
Yes.
And I like recommend it in a bad way. I want you to see how bad it is.
Okay, I did see a clip the other day that made me like cringe in an angry way.
What was
Super. It is Goku is teleporting, trying to go see Vegeta, and he ends up teleporting accidentally into Vegeta's bedroom.
Oh, and
yeah,
and he just insults Bulma's boobs.
Yeah, he literally. She's getting out of the shower and she's in the towel, and they're like, they're like, "What are you doing in our bedroom?" He's like, "Sorry, it was an accident. I would never want to look at her boobies. They're so saggy." He almost says precisely that, and I was like, "This."
Yeah, that's been like the meme of the show lately. Like that's actually from the show. That's in there.
Yeah, I looked it up to be like, I think that these are the voice actors. I don't think this is dubbed. As a meme.
Yeah, no, it's real.
That's honestly like it takes the campiness that I thought could get no worse from Dragon Ball. It makes it even worse.
Yeah, I mean they're trying to do some weird callback to the original show, like original Dragon Ball when Goku saw Bulma in her underwear.
Yes,
but it's just lame now.
Yes,
like they can't. It doesn't work.
Yeah, when your humor is only self-referential, like you are dead in the water, in my opinion.
For sure.
Yeah, so you have me interested. So, I mean, how committed should I be to exploring Super? Like 2 episodes?
I gave up like really early on.
So not that committed.
I've heard, and this is just speculation, I've heard that the show has gotten a lot better since it first was on the air.
Yeah. How many seasons deep are they now?
I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
All I know is that I can't stand any of the new character designs. I think they're all terrible. The fact that the supreme lord of like the universe is some little pill, I almost said pillhead. I don't want to call him a pillhead, but his head looks like a pill, like actually. He's like,
Okay.
Like,
I was about to ask, like, there is like substance abuse
No,
in this
no.
show. I thought that's where you were going, but you mean his head is the shape
like
of a pill?
his head looks
Okay.
like a medicine, and he's like 2 feet tall, and he
Mhm.
apparently has all this power. And if he's used it, I haven't seen it. But so did you see the Battle of Gods movie or whatever?
No.
With the cats, with Beerus.
I read about that episode because I don't know why. Why would I be reading about Dragon Ball Z 15 years after I stopped watching it? But I did read, like, because Beerus and the other guy who's more powerful than Beerus?
Oh,
What's his name? White hair.
Whis
And Beerus. I was reading this article basically talking about, like, in the whole lore of the show. I love reading up on lore on even a show that I haven't studied it myself. Just saying how they're even more powerful than Goku ever is previously to that. That they both have him bested.
Well, yeah, I mean that's just the problem with the show. That's what I was telling you earlier. Is that it's all about like power level now.
Yeah.
Like it's It's like they don't even care about the characters.
Yeah.
It's just all about who can be like the actual measurable strongest person in the universe. And that would be, I wouldn't say it would be fine, but it would be at least passable if they had like cool fights or like cool animation or something to back that up. But the problem, at least with what I've seen, is that the animation's horrible. The fights are uninspired. Goku literally gives up in Battle of the Gods. Like he decides to stop fighting.
Yeah, I read that.
And that's just like not like how can you write anything about Goku and have him give up on anything?
I think all stories have a point of exhaustion where you need to wrap them up. You know, Dragon Ball Z, obviously the lore of it. Well, obviously the creators probably don't care to continue going. It's just like a cash grab. But I that doesn't surprise me a bit. That like they've exhausted any remaining conflict that can like keep the story going. You know what it reminds me of is a movie I was dragged to by some people I love, but I won't name. It was my dad. I was dragged to the new Independence Day movie. Was that a year and a half ago or
Resurgence?
Yeah. And I read an interesting article from someone who's been, was it A.O. Scott in the New York Times? So I don't want to take this person's point, but this is not my observation, but this was his, about how he thought at the time the first Independence Day was really like staggering because you get into this action movie and few big budget sort of in quotations family driven action movies had allowed that level of like hundreds of millions of people to die. Not like you don't see them all die, but like you see every major city in the world get leveled. Like that, he said that he thought that was kind of the beginning of where we are now. Of like we see this, it's almost like an arms race. Of you have the Transformer movies, like more destruction happens on Earth, and finally get to Independence Day Resurgence, and literally the new alien craft that lands is the size of a continent. About how like eventually. The bad guy's power, if that's your storytelling, is build more conflict with making the bad guys more powerful. Eventually, it becomes so big, it's just silly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and that's all the show is.
Yeah, that's all Dragon Ball Z, I would say, has been since was it the end of season 3? Was that the end of the Frieza saga? I think so.
I would disagree with you on that.
You thought it was better after that too?
I would say once. So I was telling you earlier, Super Saiyan 2 should have been the end of like the transformations.
Yeah.
I really one of the things I really liked about the original show was when they were trying to go Super Saiyan 2. There was like that whole form where you were like insanely strong, but your muscles were so big that you were just so slow.
Yeah,
and like
forgot about that.
You could like really hurt someone with a punch, but the problem is they could evade it so well that it wouldn't even matter. And I really liked both Goku and Vegeta trying to ascend to that form in a way that doesn't cause that sluggishness, and also like Vegeta never succeeds, and Goku and his son do, and that's like one of the core like values of Vegeta's character is that he can't get to Goku and Gohan's level. And that's why he keeps working as hard as he does. And if you're just going to have, in the beginning of Dragon Ball Super, they can immediately just go Super... What is it even called? Super Saiyan Blue?
Yeah.
They can both just do it
Super
now.
Saiyan Scene is what it is.
Yeah. They can both just do it now. And they're on the same... I don't even know if they're on the same level, but at least it seems like that to me because I don't know like the show that well, but
Yeah.
just immediately plateauing both of them, it's just they don't know what made the original show so good.
Yeah.
And like you can tell me all day, like, oh man, but the arcs of the story are great, and it's a whole new take. It's a whole new take on the series. You can't. Then why didn't you just make a new show?
Yeah.
Like based off of Dragon Ball.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. Or like have I don't know, or even do like a prequel where everybody isn't so overpowered. I mean, yeah, go in a different direction. I love that's really funny. It's a whole new take on this, as if the first take was fucking Shakespeare in the first place, which it wasn't.
No,
like the first, it isn't amazing storytelling. Because
I mean, I'm not going to deny that like a large reason that I love Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z is because I watched it as a kid. If I were if I were to watch it now, like without knowing what it was, I'd be like, yeah, this is cool, but like it could definitely improve a lot.
Yes. Honestly, to me, I would say Dragon Ball Z and Yu-Gi-Oh! Are the things I watch because there's that weird pleasure about cringing about yourself when you were 12. Like, looking back and laughing about how awful of a human being you were. Yeah. Like, that's, to me, I associate my Yu-Gi-Oh! Days, and I think holding the cards in my hands the way Yu-Gi-Oh! Held them as I played the game. It's funny I say that, and later I'll like talk about the 8th grade and wonder why I didn't have friends. But I laugh about. I literally enjoy Dragon Ball Z almost because of like, I don't know. It's some weird form of Schadenfreude. It's like I enjoy how it just reminds me of being like a snot-nosed preteen and teenager.
Oh yeah, that's
like
for me.
It's like anti-nostalgia maybe.
For me, that's Naruto.
Oh yes, okay.
I watched so much Naruto as a kid, and I had all the games, and I had a fucking headband.
Did you ever run with your arms straight behind you?
Yes, but not like seriously. Like I knew I was joking.
Okay, good. I did. I will admit, probably about 11 or 12 years old, to jokingly scream as loud as I could, trying to search Super Saiyan with my friends.
Dude,
just making his mom mad because it was the middle of the night and we're in the basement trying to turn Super Saiyan.
One time I was at. Were you done with your story? I'm sorry.
That was it. Yeah.
Okay, good.
That's not a good story.
It sounded like you might have had something to say. But one time there was this huge. I was at a friend's house, or I was at like youth group at church or something. I was where a bunch of my friends were. I forget exactly where it was, but there was this windstorm outside, and me in my infinite wisdom, I just go outside, and in this windstorm, it's literally like huge gusts of wind. I'm just outside, just going. And eventually I just kept doing it for like 30 seconds, and eventually my voice cracked, so I'm like, and everyone there was just losing their minds. It was like one of the funniest things that has ever I didn't plan on doing. Like, it was so funny.
I would love that story from whatever youth pastor was at chaperoning that night. And then this kid I'd never seen before, full freaked out, yelling at God straight into the wind, and I did nothing. But that's fantastic.
It was amazing, man. I remember it all the time. So thanks for bringing that up so I can just talk about it.
Yeah, I have thought before though. I'd be interested to see how I feel about the very first episodes of Dragon Ball, not Dragon Ball Z, but Dragon Ball, because the lore of that, like I was telling you earlier, it's such a weird take on spirituality, mysticism, magic, and sci-fi, and the world build. I love interesting world building. I think that's one of my. I am all about writing good stories and reading good stories, but when it's speculative fiction like sci-fi or fantasy, when it has interesting world building, often I'll be like, yeah, I don't think this is a good story, but what they're doing and how unique this world is, I can't take my eyes off of it. And I've looked back and thinking, I think Dragon Ball, it started out with a very maybe I don't know enough anime. Maybe it's really a ripoff of other things, but it's in my memory, what anime I have watched, it started out in a pretty interesting. I mean, the whole idea of the Dragon Balls and it's like a quest. It's the kind of thing that it's a mix of all those different genres and elements that probably could only come out of Japan. So I have that passing thought of maybe I should find the original episodes of Dragon Ball again.
Well, I mean, you're talking about all this inspiration, and it's Dragon Ball is what caused people to like anime.
Yes.
Whether or not because as
For
far as I
millennials,
know, no, it's a very original show.
Uh-huh.
But even if it did take concepts from other shows, you would be foolish to even try and say that there was anything before Dragon Ball. I guess Dragon Ball Z is the one that really put anime on the map. But
those good old days around 2000, 2003,
oh, yeah.
when it was on Toonami every afternoon, every
I would
school
watch.
day.
There was only 2 shows that I would like set like my internal clock for, and that was Dragon Ball Z and Justice League.
Oh yeah, Justice League was awesome.
Which we can talk about Justice League if you want soon, because I'm
gonna have to remind myself because I'm plenty older than you, so I remember watching some Justice League, but not every single day like I did Dragon Ball Z. Because Justice League was an original show that didn't hit Cartoon Network for a while. See, back in the day, the original lineup of Toonami, I think it was something like it was Gundam Wing, which is actually a pretty good anime. Then Sailor Moon, No Hate.
Gundam is awesome.
Gundam's great. And then Reboot, that terribly computer animated. Do you know the computer animated show from Cartoon Network called Reboot?
No, I don't.
It is a real fun concept, but it's like computer animation made for television in 2000. It's horrendous looking now, but it had a cool concept. And then Dragon Ball Z was like the main course at 4 o'clock every afternoon.
Well, I guess sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but Naruto wasn't the third one. I stayed up and watched Naruto.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Was that did that play on Cartoon Network?
Yeah, it was Toonami.
Okay. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. See, the original Toonami was only in the afternoons, and then they stopped that programming and brought it back just for late night.
Mm-hmm.
But my early memories were
there was like 4 or 5 seasons of Toonami,
mm-hmm.
And then like I think after season 2 is when they started playing it like a lot later.
Really? Is that it? Okay?
Because
but my heyday was when it was right in the afternoon.
Yeah. Because I never saw it when it was afternoon time,
mm-hmm.
and I definitely started watching it during season 3. So maybe it was earlier than that, but
I have, as you know my whole family. I have 3 younger siblings who are to varying degrees as weird or weirder than I am, especially in their taste in movies. And I say weird, I mean to people who don't like anime and things like that. So I remember being in. Now I like to say that I can take some credit for that because I like to imagine myself as a middle schooler, and my 2-year-old sister was sitting there watching Dragon Ball Z with me.
Yeah.
So to my youngest sister, if I've brought any pain in your life by introducing these ridiculous shows to you from your infancy, it might be a little bit my fault if any of you are strangers.
Do your younger siblings, like my younger brothers, they would watch that stuff with me all the time, and now like they couldn't tell you anything about it at all.
Yeah.
Like they don't care about anything that I used to watch when I was a younger guy.
Yeah.
Is your family the same way? Like
No, we're on different subjects. We still can talk about those shows, enjoy them for nostalgia, and enjoy anime. And
my brother Caleb loves Justice League, but other than that, like Seth, like I guess I was too old to be watching that stuff. Yeah, I was forbidden to watch it by the time Seth was born.
What?
No, I'm just kidding. But I wasn't watching, or at least not regularly, because Seth's 6 years younger than I am.
Okay.
And I wasn't watching those shows regularly when he was a kid, and he probably doesn't even. He's probably never seen a single episode of anime in his life.
Yeah.
But Caleb's 2 years younger than I am, and we would watch Justice League all the time, and he still loves Justice League. But I don't know why he hasn't picked up on. And Caleb, if you're listening, I'm sorry to be talking about you, but I don't know why he hasn't picked up on like Naruto or. Actually, wait. Now that I'm thinking about it, he did like Naruto when we were kids. But
you're asking a question though. How do you end up being like someone like Rex, who's a 30-year-old man who still talks about Harry Potter on a regular basis? I don't know how some people let go of that stuff, and then people like me continue to be on a podcast talking about Dragon Ball Z.
That wasn't exactly my question. It was more like because we're both the oldest.
Yeah.
Are you the oldest?
Oldest boy. I have an older sister.
Okay, so we're both the oldest men in our family, and
the oldest breathy men.
Men. But I was just curious if like the things that you did like were passed down to your younger brothers.
Honestly, probably it did not stick as intensely with them as it did with me.
Okay.
But also they're experts in certain weird television programs and musical genres that I never touched on.
Like Beans?
Oh yeah, I have one brother who is a Bean expert, which I hate to say it, I miss the Beans generation. I'm too old for that.
Yeah.
But,
you're not missing
Another
much.
brother likes folk guitars. I have a folk guitar brother and a beans brother.
Dude, this is crazy because we're talking all this stuff about family, which is what Dragon Ball Z was about.
Yeah.
Well, at least it could be compared to family.
Yeah.
And
When a gross old man is basically your new dad, and your little brother's bald. And then this green guy who
my
wants
little brother
to kill
is
you.
when your little brother's Caillou
Yeah.
with 6 dots on his head.
And then there's this green alien who wants to kill you, but then he wants to train your son. And then you go to his world and blow it up. Yeah, just like family, actually.
Yeah, that's
It's-
exactly how it happens. I remember when I went to my son's karate master's home and blew it up.
That was good. Yeah. You remember when that probably irresponsible old man was put in charge of our 10-year-old boys? That was really good. I liked
great
that a lot
times.
too.
Great times.
Yeah, great parenting in make-believe. I like the world Dragon Ball Z. It's like this is Japan, but with spaceships and dinosaurs. I like that point of Dragon Ball Z the most. That there are dinosaurs, and no one really bats an eye.
Yeah,
Like
they literally just they fly one at one point in the show.
They're just like, yeah, there's dinosaurs. This is make believe Japan. We got dinosaurs and spaceships, and magic and God. Like they just everything is in
everything ever is in the show.
Yeah,
And their gods are dragons.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever watch Dragon Ball GT?
No. I was working at Starbucks by then and had no soul. So no, I missed. I just. That's why I was telling. Well, like I was saying to you, Oliver. I have a side gig where I teach courses to teenagers, and this kid pegged me perfectly recently, and he just looked at me and said, "Hey, dude, have you ever heard of Dragon Ball Z?" And it was hilarious what they talk about with Dragon Ball Z, 17-year-olds versus me. Like, they talk about GT, and they talk about Super. They haven't seen the original episodes. That's how long. It's kind of like Pokemon. It's been going on.
Wait, they've seen GT?
Yeah. Maybe not all of them. The kid I was talking to has seen GT.
What? That baffles me. Because GT is regarded generally by the public as the worst season or worst version of the show.
Who's the main villain in GT?
Well, actually, so I was going to ask you about that or talk to you about that. So GT is not good. Like, it's not a good show.
I've heard, yeah.
But I respect it a lot because they tried to do a lot of really cool concepts inside of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing that they tried to do, and this one utterly failed, was they tried to go back to Goku being a kid, which I don't know if you knew about that. But basically,
I've seen episodes
the
of
overarching
that.
villain of the show, I can't remember his name. It's like, it's a very short name, but it's the little blue horned guy. He basically gathers all the Dragon Balls at the beginning of the show, and Goku is fighting.
What is his name?
I forget his name, but Goku is fighting with Oob.
Mm-hmm.
You know Oob, right?
Yeah.
So this is directly after the end of Dragon Ball Z.
Mm-hmm.
So Goku's fighting with Oob, and the little horn guy gets all of the Dragon Balls, and they find out about it and go to stop him. And because this guy's a villain from the original Dragon Ball. Goku gets there and he summons Shenron. Goku doesn't summon Shenron, the other guy does. And when Goku gets there, he gets really frustrated and goes, "Oh, I wish you were smaller so I could kick your ass again." And then Shenron's just like,
"Your wish is granted."
And then Goku like turns back into a kid and regrows his tail. And that's the first thing they tried to do, which could have been all right, but it didn't work at all because who wanted Goku to be a kid again? Like, I don't know. It's just weird. And then the next thing they try to do, which actually is kind of cool, is all of the Shenrons become the villains because the power of the Dragon Ball corrupts them, I think is how it happens.
Okay, so I know about these storylines, and I think this is what those teenagers were talking about. Because those episodes are, what, early 2010s when those came out, maybe?
It's like 2007.
Okay, but they're more recent than Dragon Ball Z episodes.
Like, Dragon Ball GT is one of those things where I've seen a lot of, like, the fights and stuff, but I never sat down and watched the show.
I've read articles catching up on, like, the major points and the characters, which is baffling to try to keep up with. I mean, how many freaking seasons of lore is there? I mean, a lot, 20-ish, something like that. But it's funny. I've dropped off. Same thing with Pokemon. Like, I've dropped off many, many years ago, and you have like 4-year-olds coming up to me and asking me, like, "Do you know who Tuxedo Man is? I'm like, that's a Pokemon now? Like, are you kidding me?
They just announced Gen 8 3 days ago.
Gosh.
The new starters look like garbage.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. I mean, there have been okay starters since the originals, but not wonderful starters, in my opinion. I know enough of them, and I stopped after the first couple gens, but...
Dude, I mean, Cyndaquil, man.
Cyndaquil's great.
My favorite Pokemon.
Really?
Yep.
I still go old school Dragonite, 100%.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Dragonite's cool.
We better not go talk about Pokemon, because we won't talk about anything else on our list. Cause I don't
give a fuck.
Well, then also, I don't know as much about newer Pokemon than you do. I will be lost. I'll be able to be like, I trained a Mr. Mime that got pretty cool one. That's all. I stopped a long time ago with, but I just compare like those are pieces of. It's funny how niche and specific you would think anime is, and yet it's funny the staying power of it. It's these shows have had since the 90s.
Oh yeah,
Naruto as well. Like how long they've come around and how many new versions that arguably the American audience has been part of the catalyst of keeping them going. And with Pokemon, that's obvious because it's international. But things like Dragon Ball Z, it's not just a Japanese audience; it's the huge American audience as well.
But it's weird. Like, I know this show is so big, and everyone knows what it is. But you talk to like 90% of people, they will have not watched a single episode of Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah,
at least that I've talked to.
Anime kids live on a different plane of existence. It's amazing.
Yep.
People, when I say anime kids to other people my age, they don't know what I'm referring to. I'm like, what? It's like, am I seeing ghosts? How is that possible? It is funny. It's big, but I think it has a very deep but narrow fandom, if that makes sense.
I suppose that's true, yeah. I mean, like, if you tell a good story, I'm going to watch no matter what it is. Like,
oh, yeah.
And, like, anime has some of the best, like, emotional, heartfelt stories it's very consistent in terms of how it's presented, and you feel emotion in a different way in an anime than you would in anything else. And I mean, I don't know. It's valuable, if you ask me.
I agree. Because
there's so many people out there, like, you say the word anime, and they're like, oh, gross, I don't want to watch that stuff. And it's like, dude, just give it a chance, and you might like it. Like,
it's such a closed-minded attitude. People. We'll get to this later. I loved the film Roma last year. It was very popular, but honestly, I had a very positive emotional reaction to watching the movie. And I from people I respect, got the reaction of, it's in Spanish. I don't want to read the whole time.
Yeah,
I'm like,
ridiculous.
Are you kidding me? Like, I promise you, it's first of all, it is written in English in the subtitles. You can figure it out as you go along. There's so many experiences in entertainment that are so interesting and fulfilling, and but they're just outside of what is considered mainstream.
It's like one thing that is wrong, and they're like, oh, I don't even want to try.
It's like, but this one kid who wore Dragon Ball Z sweatshirts in my class was weird, and now I'm going to allow a silly bias to stop me from exploring that or understanding those fans better. Yeah, it's disappointing. The good news is that intense fans can keep something going for decades, and can have enough voice and enough dollars behind merchandise and stuff to keep really good stories that are even really peculiar and sometimes not well written, like Dragon Ball. Yeah, I like that it's still going, even though I hear it's not very good. I'm like, good for you guys. That's awesome. Dragon Ball was better, but that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree. I don't like that it's still going at all, but I mean, to each his own. I don't know. It's like
Nish was dead.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was writing it, I would say, guys, we need to take this sweet puppy and like release him to tell the kids that he went to go live on a farm.
Mr. Toriyama, I just need to let you know that Goku is living on a farm now. He doesn't live with us anymore.
Oh, but sweetie, he's so much happier there.
So much happier.
He's all so many other failed shows to run around that.
He definitely didn't get hit by a car this morning.
No,
he's living on a farm.
I definitely didn't hold a pillow over his face. He held
a pillow over your dog's face.
He is so happy. I didn't pull a Frank Underwood and choke him on the street. I promise. He's okay, buddy. It needs to happen, but for the sake of the fans, like, it is nice to see that something weird and niche, because people demand it, can actually happen. Because so many things get canceled. So I don't know. To me, I see your point, but I'm always like, oh.
Well, all right. So that's another thing. Like, I'm all for things coming back to serve the fans. Like, that's not the problem here. The problem is when you do that with solely the intention of profit.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what they've done, from what I understand.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is.
Well, at least we can ascertain that seems to be their only motivation by the poor quality.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you wouldn't go up to Jackson Pollock and be like, I'm going to replicate your style because I saw how successful you were with it.
Mm-hmm.
Artists, like, you look at fine art like paintings, and you don't just, like, rip off someone else. Well, I guess you could, but, like, that doesn't happen. Like, you don't just revive all of these artist styles in order to make a buck. And if you take that concept of art and apply it to, because like Akira Toriyama's original concept of Dragon Ball, that's art.
Mm-hmm.
It's telling a story, which is what art is.
Yes.
And you can't just take art and just rip it off. I mean, when I say you can't, like, I'd say you shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't just take art and rip it off just because it's profitable. Because A, it's not going to be as good because you don't have the original artist's intention, and you don't have the original artist's vision, and you can't see inside their mind to see how to make their vision work and how to make their vision be relevant and relatable to the consumer, the viewer. And B, like, it's just not a cool thing to do. Like, this culture is so infatuated with money and just being at the top, and like, if you're gonna get to the top without doing it yourself, what's the fucking point?
Yeah. And, and in the same vein, sometimes they take that very line of thinking and say that is their defense of, hey, we weren't trying to make art. We were just making something fun. We're just making entertainment. And I always have to call bullshit on that that's a really weak defense for a thoughtful criticism against your poor work. Like, if you've that's the thing, is once you have made, this is my opinion, once you've made a piece of art, you are now passive, and the viewer, the reader, the listener, they're now they're in control of how it's interpreted from that point on. You too can say as much as they want, oh no, this is our intention of forcing this into your iTunes, and we meant this for good. I'm not even going to get into what I think about that subject, but it's more about how was it received. How was it, like, I think, like, once it's out there in the world. So the thing you're talking about of, like, just doing it for profit, when they actually stand beside that as an argument for the poor quality of what they're doing, I look at it and just say, like, no, you cannot stop. It's out here. I agree. It is poor art. I think it's still art, and
I agree.
I definitely am not, like, out of range of what I'm allowed to talk about by pointing, this is hilarious. We're talking about this. This is exactly what I want to talk about later with a certain movie that we're going to discuss. Keep
it under wraps. Don't
I
not
won't
spoil
yet.
the surprise,
But
which it might
precisely,
even be in the title of the podcast. But whatever.
Okay, well, don't read the title, ladies and gentlemen. It's like, I can't stop you from making a buck and making some horrible storytelling via whatever method, whatever medium. I can't stop you. You cannot stop me from pointing out how poorly it was done.
Yeah,
and criticize if it is done with not the best ethics in mind.
I mean, I totally agree. I would say if you're doing an original work and just having fun making something, I think that has value.
Sure.
But if
much more than just copying something.
But if you're just like, because I mean, when I draw, I like freehand, like, not trace, but like look at something and copy it down.
Yeah.
And I have fun doing that too, but I'm not going to go up to someone and try and sell it as my work.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because I that's going back to Naruto. I would always just like look at the covers for the mangas and just draw them, like, in my sketch pad. And if I'm being really honest, I thought I did a really good job. Like, it looked pretty accurate. But I'm not gonna, like, scan that in and then upload it to a website saying, like, here's my rendition of this manga cover.
Yes.
Buy it for $10. I mean, that's like the equivalent of, if you ask me, what they're doing with this new Dragon Ball show.
Yeah.
So we've gone full circle here.
Yes, we have.
We talked about what at the very beginning, 35 minutes ago. We've been talking about Dragon Ball for 35 minutes.
Wow. I think I'm going to make this my definition of personal success.
Nice.
I talked for Dragon Ball Z for 30 minutes.
It's awesome. We can move on to the next topic after this concluding statement.
Okay.
But we've gone full circle of, I talked about why it's terrible in the beginning, back to why it's a ripoff. So, thanks for indulging me on
you're
my
welcome.
Dragon Ball super hate.
Our review of Dragon Ball is bad.
It's not good.
It's
out
a
of
not
10.
Oh, a not good out of, yes.
gonna get.
I was gonna say 5 out of 7 personally, but not good. I think is probably more accurate.
You ever watch Anthony Fantano?
Sure do.
So you know about the not good out of 10.
Oh yes.
That's what I was referencing there. I'm ripping off Anthony Fantano.
Yeah. How did I not pick up on that one? That was good. I like him.
I was trying to do it didn't really work that well, I guess, because you didn't pick up on it. But
yeah,
we were just talking about ripping off art, so I ripped off Anthony Fantano.
Gosh.
Which I'll do that shit.
Can you go ahead and explain all your jokes to me? Because I'm one glass of wine deep right now, so who knows how...
glass.
Who knows... It's Saturday night over here. Who knows how little of your jokes I will get at this point. Anyway.
Rex is on the floor again.
Yeah. I'm just going to lay here. What's next?
Okay, so we have... so this week is the next season of Marvel movies.
Mm-hmm.
Captain Marvel comes out on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And I am pumped as hell.
Good.
I absolutely love the MCU.
Mm.
And I think it's one of the... Like, people are in, 50, 100 years are going to look back on this as, one of the defining moments of pop culture. I mean, it's hard to argue that because, this is when it all started happening. But,
Yeah.
this whole universe that they've made, whether you like it or not, it's, has so many fans and it's making so much money. And it's the first time ever you've gotten to see multiple heroes on screen with each other in live action.
I think, yeah, you're entirely right that we're easily past the point where what the MCU and other competing studios have, what Marvel and competing studios have done, it's now comparable to we look back in Hollywood history of the golden age of Hollywood musicals in the 30s, and then the 20-year period of excellent westerns leading all the way into the 60s. These eras where we have a genre that is so dominant and so well liked, it is as big as those. I mean, it's hard to think since the western and its strongest heyday. All the way up to True Grit in 1969 with John Wayne. Trying to think of a genre that has been as big until superheroes at large. And to be honest, most of it is the MCU. They are to superheroes what MGM was to musicals back in the 30s. There was one studio doing all the biggest musicals, and everybody else in town was chump change. Yeah, you're right. This is it. I don't think anyone can argue from at least a business standpoint that they are hugely history making, and a lot of other. Obviously we know what they're doing with storytelling is going to affect Hollywood for decades.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. It will.
Oh yeah. You just see all the people trying to copy this format.
Mm-hmm.
It's mostly other superhero labels now, but they try. Universal tried to do it with the monster verse. I forget what it was called. They had the Mummy, and then what was the other one that they made, and then it was so bad that they just stopped making them.
Wait, was the MonsterVerse connected with Godzilla? No. That's Warner Brothers. Who else was in them? Yeah, I remember reading.
There was
about that.
2 Universal movies that got made that were supposed to be in the same universe, and then they were so bad that they just canceled the project.
Gosh, but, I love the Godzilla and King Kong connection that Warner Brothers is trying to do. Is I read about these and I kind of just discount them immediately. I'm I'm not excited until you prove to me you can put together some interesting stories. So far only the MCU has really done that in recent years.
All right, here's what companies don't get. Excuse me, is the MCU isn't amazing because it's this big universe. That's just the icing on the cake. The MCU is great because it established all these movies with relatable characters that have storylines that are now working together, and it makes sense. Just because there's a universe doesn't make everything awesome.
Yeah.
Which is what the DC universe did not get.
Yes.
It's what the Universal universe did not get. It's what pretty much anything else, unless it's an isolated trilogy or something or a sequel. Pretty much anything else didn't get. If you're trying to set up this universe, you have to do it in a way you can't be as big as Marvel with 1 or 2 movies.
Yes.
Marvel's been going for 10 years, and all these studios think that they can say, oh, all these movies are going to be connected, so you better go see them. That's not going to work because people aren't going to want to see them.
Yeah, like why do we want to? Why did people show up and bust through every single record in 2012 to see the Avengers? Because they had laid the at that point we had technically 5 Marvel movies, 2 Iron Mans, Thor, Captain America, and you can kind of count the Hulk with Edward Norton.
The Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton is MCU.
It is MCU?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if they had the rights to that one. So
well, they do. Edward Norton just dropped out because I think he didn't get paid enough or something.
But so like to your point, you can't get to the success of. I don't think even Marvel couldn't have gotten to the success they had with Avengers and the depth that they've penetrated pop culture without those 5 preceding movies. And those 5 preceding movies, most of them I don't think are excellent. They're either they're all. I mean, and the average I'd give all of them together is pretty good. But the point is they carefully did, like as you're pointing out, build an interesting array of characters. They did it in a classical way with the hero's journey multiple times. They did also make Iron Man, which is, in my opinion,
that's what I was about to bring up.
One of the when I talk about really great movies happening these days, there's few superhero movies I like to talk about, and Iron Man is one of them. So they started out on the right note for one thing. Well, that was after the Hulk.
That's the thing. Like, I would wager the entire success of the MCU being built upon Iron Man being good.
Well, yes.
If Iron Man flopped, we wouldn't have this right now.
Oh, totally.
I'd put money down on saying that because Captain America wasn't that. Iron Man came out first, but Captain America wasn't that great.
The Thor followed.
Thor wasn't that great.
Yeah.
Hulk wasn't that great.
And then Iron Man 2.
I like Iron Man 2, but I know it's objectively not that good.
It also did not receive the fan love that the first one did.
And then, was there another one that came out for Avengers?
I don't think so. If I remember correctly, no. There's those 5 films and then the first Avengers.
Yeah.
And also, to be completely honest, I think you're right that the moment of Iron Man working so well is, to me, only eclipsed by the fact that the first Avengers film is structurally one of the most complete action movies ever made in its storytelling. It is just, why am I blanking on his name? He did Buffy. Who is the director of
Avengers? Jon Favreau? Or Russo brothers?
No, the original Avengers film, the guy who did Firefly, Joss Whedon.
Oh, yeah.
Joss Whedon.
How did I not know that?
I cannot believe I...
Because Jon Favreau did Iron Man.
Yes, you're right. And he did 2 as well. I think Joss Whedon's screenplay and his team and what he was able to bring to the first one. That's the thing. The stunt of being able to connect all these characters in one story is not simple storytelling. It's not classic storytelling. And somehow he made it work on a big scale. So, that's the thing is these other studios... it's almost like lightning doesn't strike the same place twice. It just doesn't. So it's like, you really think you're going to be able to replicate that? You got to do a different thing. And they keep trying to be the MCU. I agree with you. Like, you're not going to do it in a short amount of time. Yeah. I would argue they probably could never do it at all. It's only going to happen once.
But dude, like, we talked about Justice League before.
Yeah.
If they would have taken their time, analyzed what made the characters good, and then built up to the Justice League, that would have been great.
Yeah.
Because the Justice League is one of... I would argue is way more interesting than the Avengers in like classic original form. Not even the show, like just the characters working together.
And I think honestly, before Iron Man, if you had asked the general public about the 5 most famous Avengers versus the 5 most famous members of the Justice League,
they would immediately know who Justice League was.
There's even a broader base of individuals who would recognize the characters and understand their basic flaws.
Shit, man. Before Iron Man came out, everyone... It's not like people didn't even know who Iron Man was. They disliked Iron Man.
Yeah. You're right. He wasn't even popular with some Marvel fans.
People that knew about Marvel, they were like, Iron Man, just that guy that flies around in a robot suit and gets drunk all the time. I don't care about him.
Yeah.
It's because they revitalized the character in a way that works.
Yeah.
And they added the compassionate side of Tony Stark, which I have not read a lot of Iron Man comics. I don't think it's there that often. They made Tony Stark a human, albeit an asshole human, in the movie, and that's what made the movie good. And that was the foundation of... That's why the MCU works, is because you can look at the characters and be like, I know what they're about, and I know what their goals are. That's the reason I really like Captain America Civil War. is because it highlights those in every single character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And of all these films we're talking about, most of them I walk away with frustrations and I pick at them. But honestly, I know when I step back a year later, I tend to pick at a movie about its details of its storytelling when it hits all the major points pretty well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I walked out of, we were just talking about Independence Day Resurgence. I had basically nothing to say because it was like, it wasn't like it barely got an F. It was like a 20% out of 100 to me. Like, it was so, whereas like, I feel like MCU at this point is, to me, I feel like they're the smart kid who occasionally doesn't try hard and gets a C+ on a test. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? You could do any, it's almost like I can see the potential there. And when they hit it right, it's so amazing. I feel like they're the smart kid who doesn't try and sometimes messes up. So I end up picking at them for much smaller things. So I tend to maybe give, when I'm talking to friends, negative reviews of some Marvel movies. I think I'm overly negative at the start because the bones and the basic structure of the story are so excellently there in the first place that I'm like, oh, you were so this is, again, another movie that's so close to being like another great original Avengers Iron Man. I keep looking at them going like, you were almost 100% again. You know what I mean? And then I end up maybe expressing more negativity about the MCU than maybe I appropriately should to express how I'm impressed. I'm always impressed with what they do. I'm not even a huge comic book fan, but just as it is nice to, have a genre of movies that I know well enough that whenever the new one comes out, it's popcorn entertainment that is done the right way.
Yeah.
And that really fun.
That's interesting you bring that up because I was just wanting to talk about that. Is I can envision someone saying or listening to this podcast and then saying, they were just talking so much shit about people making things that are fun just to be fun. And now they're praising the MCU. Here's what I have to say about that. The MCU is fucking fun. That's like the point of it. Is like to be fun.
And I mean, for a comparison, that's like telling, like, I would say even the episodes of Dragon Ball Z I remember, I'm like, that is not C+B territory of storytelling. Yeah. And like I said, like I like comparing it to a student. Like, I mean, the kid who will not turn in their work, and you like try to encourage them in a different way. You maybe don't go so hard on them. But that's the thing about Marvel is when I criticize I think it gets stuff wrong. But the difference is, unlike things like Dragon Ball Z, it gets a lot right. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, in the past, I've had friends. My brother even was like, I thought you hated Thor Ragnarok. I was like, what? He's like, all you just say was that one negative thing about it. And I was like, oh yeah, I did. No, I liked it. I was like wanting it to be another, like, and honestly, all things considered, I like Ragnarok a lot. Mm-hmm. For some reason, I walk out of them at this point with my expectations so high because they have reached those expectations a few times. But all things considered, the more I look back, I can watch Ragnarok. I can watch Winter Soldier. All these movies that I criticized at the time a little bit. I'm not a professional critic, so no one's actually listening to me. But I look back on them, I'm like, yeah, I was just being harder on them because I know this studio. Like, I'm like, oh, come on. What'd you do that with that character? You guys have a similar character in the Avengers film that was so much better. But yeah, if someone made that point, I'd be like, I'm picking at it because I want it to be excellent.
I mean, the fun aspect is just the icing on the cake.
Totally.
Similar how the universe is the icing on the cake. I mean,
the story, the
reason they are fun is because of you can relate and identify with the characters and get enjoyment out of seeing them succeed, which is something I cannot give the DC universe at all.
Yeah.
Because you know what the DC universe is trying to do? They're trying to rip off the two most popular pieces of superhero pop culture in the last 20 years, which is the MCU and The Dark Knight.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't rip that shit off because those two things were made with so much care and commitment and writing and passion and whatever else you want to throw into that freaking blender and blend up a freaking good movie. You can't just you can't steal the recipe and just expect to make the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like
when a master has made that recipe.
Exactly.
It is funny
because you look at these things. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go for it.
But you look at these things. Like, all right, MCU. We've been talking about this whole time. Characters that you can identify with. You can see what their goals are.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing what they think is right.
Mm-hmm.
What does that have in common with the Dark Knight? It's the exact same thing.
Yep.
You can look at every character in the Dark Knight and be like, they have goals.
Mm-hmm.
They want to reach these goals, and they're fighting for what they believe in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even the villain, the Joker.
Yeah.
He believes in chaos.
And I think the big picture, something I would add to what you're talking about, that they're trying to copy off to the most successful thing. You're saying that those two universes were, excellently done, and they focused on the basics of story. And I agree that DC has not focused on the correct things. It's been
Exactly.
on top of it, it's almost like there's another lesson that they completely miss. What is another thing that makes the Dark Knight and the MCU so successful? They were incredibly original. It's like that's the whole point, I think, of they don't just do it well, they do something new and well. New isn't always better than what is traditional, but they both did something new in a superhero genre.
Well, you could make
and then DC decides, oh, you were so successful with originality and a new concept. We're going to rip you off. It's like, did you not see why they were successful?
That's the thing is, I'm not going to sit here and tell you the DC universe isn't original, because they definitely are, but they're original in ways that don't work and they don't make sense.
Yeah.
Like you can throw Batman and Superman on the screen, and you can look at them and say, oh, yeah, that's visually Batman and Superman. But then their actions don't back up anything about the characters at all. Like, I will say Henry Cavill, he looks like a really good Superman.
Yeah.
Like I can look at him and be like, that is Superman. But then, I know this is cliche to say, he snaps Zod's neck and then lets a bunch of people die.
Yeah.
And then doesn't care about standing up for, like, hope and honor. That's not what Superman would do.
Yeah.
And they tried to rip off the style of what made the Dark Knight so successful, and they tried to make I'm trying not to swear so much. They tried to make a Superman movie dark and gritty.
Yeah.
Why in God's name would you take Superman, the original, like, I don't know if he's not the original superhero, but like the original, like,
well,
all-powerful.
In our American mythology, he is our Hercules.
Yeah. Like, you take him, and literally all Superman is just be powerful and do it for the right reason.
Yeah.
And you can't give that movie a dark tone.
Yeah.
That's just so contradicting. The fact that if they would have just filmed that movie differently and made it brighter and done more cinematography, that like the movie opens up with a cloudy day.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't it open up with the sunshine, which is Superman's fucking power?
I didn't even think of that.
Like,
yeah, maybe that's why he does such a bad job through that movie, is there's never direct sunlight on him.
Yeah, maybe.
Poor kid. I never thought of that.
I don't get it, man. I like how I just started ranting. This is like me at parties, dude. Like, I'll be just like a few beers deep at a party, like, and a girl will come up to me, and I'll just and instead of being like, "Hey, you're really cool. You want to go out sometime?" I'll be like, Have you watched the '89 Batman with Michael Keaton, directed by Tim Burton?
Yeah.
Do you know why the Man of Steel movie is terrible?
Yeah.
Like, that's all I want to talk. I just keep ranting.
We all profess love in a different way, right? I actually, my girlfriend had to stop me from telling her about facts about octopus recently. She's like, okay, this is weird. You got to stop. So, I mean, we all have our thing.
It happens to all of us.
Okay,
man.
so, but back to Marvel. I'm really happy that you were excited about Captain Marvel.
I'm really excited.
Here's the thing. This is not a scientific observation whatsoever. I know, but this is just me speaking from my gut. And I hope I'm wrong. In my experience, I'm not naming names. Everyone in my life that I know who is a male who likes the MCU, none of them are excited about Captain Marvel. So immediately I'm like, I smell I'm not interested in this movie about a chick. You know what I mean? So I hope I am wrong. And especially now, I'm just airing, this is a thought I've had out, and maybe this is dumb, but I keep being like, I really want this movie to succeed. I really don't want Wonder Woman to be a flash in the pan. And also, from what I know by the character of Captain Marvel, I hope they do it really, really well. I've been excited about this for a while because it's going to be such an interesting interlude between the two pieces of the Infinity War and then into Endgame. I'm excited, and I hope fans don't. I just have this bad feeling that some fans are not going to show up quite as much because it's a not as recognized female character as the lead. I hope that does not happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. What I'm really excited for, so I'm going to shit on DC some more.
Really?
I think Wonder Woman's a horrible movie.
Okay. I thought it was decent.
I think Wonder Woman is it's not horrible. It's competent and it tells a story. And I mean, the thing is, like, everyone praises that movie for being like this empowering movie for women. And I know I'm gonna say something here that's gonna be taken out of context. I don't disagree with that there's some sort of gap between men and women in our society.
Sure.
And it definitely needs to be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
And I am totally for what people think this movie represents. I just think it represents it in a totally wrong way.
Okay.
So that's my disclaimer
Mm-hmm.
for in case I accidentally say something that could be taken out of context. But for me, it's not inspiring to women because the whole movie is her trying to figure out how to work in a man's world and a man showing her how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And at the very end, she basically, instead of like maturing throughout the movie and learning that she has the power to take down Ares, she just goes crazy and just like fights him.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't understand how people can look at that and think it's empowering. Like, sure, it's a movie with a woman lead, which, I mean, similar to Black Panther, like,
Mm-hmm.
people really need that. Like, those two areas of our society need those roles.
Yeah, I think some pieces of culture, like Wonder Woman, to me they are not. Let me give you an example of a movie I will argue till I'm blue in the face. Is a wonderful example of gender equality and feminism in popular movies that is several steps forward would be Mad Max Fury Road. It's not, to me, Wonder Woman's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's like, the fact that it made that much money and was that much of a milestone and a woman was in the lead, that speaks of progress. But I agree that you're totally right. There are a lot of tropes in the film, like the hopeless female who needs a male who's more intelligent. I agree with you that there's a lot of things people missed about it.
Tell me why these women that live on an island uninhabited by men decide to wear skirts as armor. I want you to answer me. Give me an answer.
I'm sorry.
Exactly.
No, wait. I can only imagine Robin Wright's legs right now, and I can't.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't have any feelings as I'm imagining it.
Well,
wait, no, this is love. Never mind. I'm in love with her again. See, why did you do that to me?
That's kind of the point.
I think
man.
I just proved the point of why they're in skirts.
I'm glad Zack Snyder didn't direct Wonder Woman because he would have had them in like bikinis the whole time.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, okay, but something like that makes sense because they're dressed as female warriors from antiquity, who would wear skirts.
Okay, if you put it like that, I guess it makes sense. But
so they're dressed appropriately from what the legends come from. Men didn't wear pants back then. Men wore robes, So I do agree that, like, I even read some articles, and I am not an expert on this, but some people criticize Wonder Woman for the costuming not purposefully being a little lingerie-esque. Other people disagreed with that. I don't know enough about costuming to say one way or another. I'm like, it looks kind of like they were doing a play on historical stuff. I don't know enough about what was historically accurate for a warrior, or even female warriors from those cultures in the Mediterranean to use. Yeah. But it come on.
I mean,
in a way, playing the main character for sex appeal, we got to admit, it does. I mean, how does Thor take off his shirt twice in every film he's in? Like, it does happen to men.
Well, I mean,
too.
that's like a common counter argument between like the women having like sexy costumes is like the male superheroes basically just wear body paint. Like,
yeah, and I see that, but of course, obviously, the context is highly different between the two. But back to my point about Captain Marvel, what I say is, like, to me, I don't want all the guys to show up to Captain Marvel just because they show up to all the Marvel movies. What I want is real fans to show up and give their real opinion on a film. And if this film, by any chance, was just leaning, like, I don't think it looks this way at all. But what if it was a film that literally its entire point was, we're important because there's a female lead? I hope fans look at it and say, no, films with female leads deserve better stories than this. You know what I mean? Like, I hope the big fans of Marvel stay excited, show up, and honestly judge for themselves whether it's a good movie. To me, that's equality. That's what I want.
No, I
for
totally
this movie.
agree. Like, you'd watch the movie, not even consider it being like
Yes.
a movie with a female as the lead, and just whether or not it's a good movie or a bad movie. That's how you judge it.
I'm just reading shitty comments on I was reading some shitty comments on one trailer on YouTube. I was talking about the fact that it had a female lead. And I was like, oh shit! I hope this doesn't like ruin chances for a Black Widow movie and stuff. Which then that is a prejudgment, obviously.
Yeah, I mean.
But so I'm excited about it, and I hope it's awesome. It looks awesome.
We've been ranting for a while, and I never even made my original point.
Sorry, go ahead.
We started talking about Wonder Woman. But so we talked about how Wonder Woman was solely built up on the fact that it was just a female lead. Just totally lost my train of thought. Hold on. So I'm excited for Captain.
Wait, legs.
Yes.
Was that? Oh, that wasn't your point.
Yeah. That was it.
Okay. Moving on.
But so the reason I'm excited for Captain Marvel is because like they built up Wonder Woman as this like sort of mega like powerful hero, which Wonder Woman is powerful in original comics, but she's not like insane. Like she's not the most powerful being in the universe. Captain Marvel is literally Superman in Marvel universe, which is why I think it might work because like that's how she was written originally. She is basically just like she can fly, she has super strength, she has laser vision. She has all that stuff. I think it might be better, and maybe that was the goal the whole time, because they've written these movies, like, years ago.
Yes, yeah.
And maybe that was the goal, is to have that and be socially relevant. But either way, I think it will work better than Wonder Woman did. Because, I mean, we're talking about ripoffs. Wonder Woman's just a ripoff of Captain America, down to the sword and shield.
Yeah.
Sword and Shield is brand new for that movie.
Yep.
That did not exist before that movie came out. And I think...
I mean, you're basically putting your money on the favorite horse in this race of saying, I'm more confident in the first major release from a studio that has a female lead with Marvel than I am DC.
That's what I'm trying to say.
And I think your faith is well placed.
Because I think they're just making the character. It's not... I mean, it probably is. It might very well be based on the fact she's a woman. But I think they're just making a movie about the character that happens to be a woman rather than using it as a way to get more tickets sold because there's a female in the movie.
Which then becomes so disappointing. That's like, okay, when that does happen in a film, you realize, like, okay, yeah, you got people excited about the movie. But in a weird way, you have stopped... actresses from getting the best material as leads. You've stopped really great storytelling having a female lead. It's funny. It's like when they push too far, like the point of the story is a female lead. I think it ironically doesn't allow a female lead character to have the most compelling, excellent story to take part in and lead. And I honestly, I think I'm just too easy on Wonder Woman because it is so freaking competent compared to the rest of that universe. DC it's just like the best scoring kid in a whole class of kids who don't care. And also, of course, that I can't even begin to get excited enough about Endgame.
Oh man, dude. All right, we need to like briefly touch on these because we really need to move on. But
yeah, I know.
So I know you didn't, but I loved Infinity War, and I thought the way they handled it was great. I think it was a really nice shake up for the Marvel formula. Actually having heroes quote unquote die in the movie I thought was amazing choice.
I agree.
And I just, it's like one of those things where like I haven't felt this anxious to see what happens next since probably since I watched like True Detective for the first time.
Yeah.
Which wasn't that long ago, but like still. I'm trying to think of another show that I was like really invested in when I was like younger, which I'll have to come back to on that one. But I'm just really excited because, I mean, Spider-Man is my favorite thing, like, ever. Like, favorite character, favorite costume, favorite... I don't know. It's my favorite thing of all time. And to see Spider-Man in these movies and then to cause that to be invested in all these other characters as well. Because I didn't give a single shit about Captain America before the MCU came out. And then after I started watching his movies and seeing how good they were directed and how good they were, I started researching more and learning more about him. Same with Iron Man. I still don't really care about Thor that much, but side note, my friend Brian, he always says, man, why do people care about like Thor stories? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, it's just Thor. from mythology. Like, what's there to be attached to there? But anyway, I just thought that was funny. But getting invested in all these characters and then seeing most of them die, and also like the very large chance that the Phase 1 Avengers will be either dead or retired at the end of Endgame.
Yeah.
Is
to me, I feel certain that either Tony Stark or Steve Rogers. One of them will not be alive at the end of this film.
No, I totally agree.
My money's on Steve Rogers. I think he gets retired.
Here's what I think is going to happen. I think Tony Stark's going to die in real life, but he's going to have some sort of consciousness available after his death, like Jarvis or Friday.
Oh.
And then I think Steve Rogers is going to become. I think he's either going to retire or become crippled in a way where he can't fight anymore.
Hail Hydra. I agree.
And then the other, I don't know. I can't speak for any of the other Phase 1
Avengers.
Avengers.
That's maybe what I mean more specifically is Chris Evans is going to retire because there are so many iterations. I don't know much about the Captain America comics, but there are other iterations of different characters who became Captain America that I think more than one of them were Black Americans, actually. So it's like it opens up different diversity and the different backstory. You can take the character and give a whole new origin story and reboot kind of organically within the universe. So to me, I agree. He's either going to die or retire for some way.
Yeah. To
be honest, like I keep thinking they're going to kill Iron Man, but he is the biggest star of movie.
I mean, but even Robert Downey Jr., he's like, I'm really tired of playing Iron
I know
Man.
he is, but they keep throwing so much money at him. He keeps saying yes.
I mean,
so to me, I keep thinking it's going to happen.
he's definitely going to take much less of a role. Because I would prefer Iron Man die. Want to know why? Because so the next thing I'm really excited for is the first movie after Endgame being the new Spider-Man. And having Mysterio.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to see a live-action Mysterio. Like, I think about it all the time. But one of the things I absolutely hated about Homecoming, which is like one of the very few things I hated about it, was that Tony Stark designed and programmed his suit. And having direct contact with Tony Stark the whole time, I think sort of really bogged down what makes Spider-Man Spider-Man for me.
Yeah.
And not having him in the next one, I think will really serve the character well.
You know what? I had never considered that, and that is such a great point. I even know that about the origin of Spider-Man. You're right. He kind of wasn't allowed to, poke his head out from the ground as a new superhero in isolation from other superheroes. Like, he didn't have that original start. I think the other two franchises that were done by Sony, I think it help you feel this teenager who has no idea what's going on with him and still kind of figures out the superhero path on his own. That's a really great point. I never considered that.
Yeah, I mean,
so now, this new Spider-Man will be. I'm very intrigued. The setting's interesting to have.
Europe, yeah. A lot of people were really mad about that because, traditionally, Spider-Man is New York.
Exactly. Of all the characters, he's one of the most centered in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Also, because he's a New York kid.
Yeah.
He's not rich. He's not Tony Stark. He can't fly around the world and save the day. He can save New York sometimes.
Yeah,
so it's an interesting choice. I'm intrigued by, but
yeah.
I'm gonna get back to. We've never talked about our central disagreements about Infinity War.
I hate to do this again.
We got to move on.
We really need to move on. We've been taught. We're already an hour and 10 minutes in, and we haven't even started talking about our.
Hell yes.
I mean, I'm not opposed to having this go for really long.
I know what you mean.
But
yeah, it's okay. We will just we'll talk off air about specifically. This is my one thing I'll say. Infinity War. It's like the really smart kid who I didn't think did all their homework and should have gotten a better score. It's a great movie.
Okay.
I liked it. I just have some criticisms of it that were bothering me, but honestly, it's so much better than most. Moving on.
Yeah, let's move on. So, we mentioned earlier that we have a specific movie that we're going to be talking about, and we kept it hidden, even though you probably already saw it in the title. I might not title it anything.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if you know it from the title or not. It's just a big mystery for all the viewers, or all the listeners. But so we wanted to talk about the Oscars this year. Is it the 2018 Oscars or the 2019 Oscars? Because I guess the ceremony was in 2019, but every time I Google 2018 Oscars, The Shape of Water comes up.
Yeah. For some reason, they call it the year the Oscars are announced. So it's the 2019 Oscars for the films of 2018.
That's so weird to me.
Yeah, it is
I don't
strange.
get that. But anyway, we want to have a discussion about the Oscars, specifically, drumroll, Green Book. Which one? Best film of the year somehow.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell you what I thought about the movie when I came over.
I really
but,
want to know what you think.
I will tell you that I know you really hate it,
Mhm.
but I don't think it's that good. I don't hate it though, and I don't know. Let's get into it, shall we? I want to have a brief talk about the Oscars, like generally before
Definitely.
we dive into
Yeah, I think
book.
I'll say this year, I was a friend of mine who used to work for Warner Brothers. She and I love asking her opinions on films. She thinks so much about the commercial aspect of films. I love asking her. Her opinions will be slightly different because she thinks about the industry. We both agreed. I felt like if you look at the Best Picture nominees this year, only 3 of them, in my opinion, were really worth your time. The other 5 films.
Only 2 of them were original stories.
Yeah, it's really strange, isn't it?
Everything else is historical.
Yeah, but it's like that can be okay. Last year, I had like 5 of the nominees. I was like, man, I like 5 of these movies. This year, 1 of them I liked okay and 2 were great, but the other, there are 8 in all. So the other 5 movies were literally just stinkers to me.
Which ones are you talking
I
about?
thought Black Klansman is relevant. It didn't
I like
wow.
Black
It didn't
Klansman.
wow me, but it totally, the screenplay's so good. It deserved winning Best Adapted Screenplay. The 2 films that I think, like, really, I couldn't get either of them out of my head after I saw them. The one that's not that talked about is The Favorite. It got a lot of nominations, but it wasn't really a front
it
runner.
didn't win anything.
It won.
Oh, Olivia Colman won Best Actress.
Yes, it won Best Actress by surprise, which I'm really happy about. That movie to me is just it. Wow, I know it's an isolating, strange movie. It's not easily accessible to major audiences. I think its goals as a story are so effectively completed in that story. I love dark comedy done well, for instance, and good costume dramas done well. It really considers it. It was brilliant, but the film I liked even better, and I sound like every other fanboy of films, I really enjoyed Roma so much.
I haven't seen it yet.
Watch it. Not everybody loves it as much as I did. I immediately was like, this is one of my favorite movies. It was my favorite movie experience of last year by far. It's
weird. Like, I'm the same boat as you. Like, I only cared about like a couple movies that were nominated this year, whereas last year there was a huge amount.
Well,
your
your animated film did pretty well.
We'll talk about that.
Okay,
We'll talk about that. But I don't even think I saw like half the movies that were nominated this year. Like, I saw Black Klansman, I saw The Favorite, I saw Green Book, I saw, what else was nominated?
You saw The Favorite. You saw Vice.
I did not see Vice. I did not see Bohemian Rhapsody. I did not see A Star Is Born. I did not see... What else?
I think we've named them all at this point.
There's one more. I named 7.
Black Klansman, Black Panther. We didn't say Black Panther.
Oh, okay. So I saw Black Klansman. I saw Black Panther. I saw... Shit. Black Klansman, Black Panther, The Favorite, and... I forget. I've seen half of them. I haven't seen half of them. And I just wasn't motivated to see any of the ones that I didn't see. I guess Roma, I do need to see that one. But
it's not popcorn entertainment either. It's like concentrate for 2 hours and 15 minutes. But I think if you're I was in the right mindset when I saw it. It is a great piece of art.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful.
It's something I need to get in on it like soon.
If you're like me,
maybe I'll spend some time tomorrow and end up watching it.
If you're like me, though, it's probably on that list of art house films that's forever long. You should watch eventually. But yeah, if you ever get around to it, it's worthwhile.
Yeah, I plan on it.
But my reactions, a lot of the awards, I was okay with. Most of them wins. I was not okay with how many times Bohemian Rhapsody won stuff.
I haven't seen that movie, and I might be totally uneducated in saying it, but I've seen clips of the movie. It all looks terrible.
It to me, honestly, is a very entertaining film, but the fact that it like won sound editing awards over movies like First Man that were brilliantly edited for sound.
The problem I have with that is like, dude, Bohemian Rhapsody, it's just already recorded songs.
Yeah. Well, honestly, people just love Queen. They love the story. I think that people were so excited about how much money it made and what it's about. It was not about the artistry of awarding the movie. And again, Rami Malek won. And to me, I've seen 3 of the other people he was in competition with for Best Actor, and all 3 of them are miles better, in my opinion, in their performances.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, We're not talking about Best Picture yet. Other than that, I was very happy with the rest of the awards. What were your other reactions?
So I was very happy Olivia Colman won Best
yes.
Actress. There was one more I was really happy with. I'll have to get back on that one because I can't remember what it was. I was very, very upset that Black Panther won Best Soundtrack over If Beale Street Could Talk.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. That was a big surprise. And
Which
I liked If Beale Street Could Talk.
Oh
Never
my
mind.
God, dude,
You're
I
right.
loved that movie. The fact that it wasn't a Oscar Best Picture nominee.
And Bohemian Rhapsody bumped it out of its spot. It pretty much seemed like a lock for Best Picture.
Yeah. It wasn't as good as Moonlight, but I mean, man, like I'm just a sucker for love movies well done.
Mm-hmm.
Love stories well done. And I will say I don't think it should have won Best Picture because like the parts of the movie that were just like them talking in the jail cell or at the prison was they were good, don't get me wrong, but like it wasn't like you felt much from them. At least I didn't. But dude, I could watch the scenes where they were like out in the street dancing and just like kissing each other and just
looking
loving
for
each
apartments
other.
And
I could watch those scenes for the rest of my life. I would never get tired of them. They were so well done.
And then on the flip side, inside the movie, to me, one of the most memorable scenes in a movie from last year was when the lead character and his childhood friend are talking about prison experiences at the table.
Yeah.
And they're trying not to let the lead female character know. It's just perfect, tight direction, excellent acting and writing. And I literally was sitting watching two men talk at a table, and I felt more dread than I do in lots of horror movies, hearing them talk about prison. It shows darkness and beautiful light so vibrantly.
I mean, Barry Jenkins is just a genius when he uses color in his movies.
Yeah.
Like, have you noticed?
So well
shot. Have you listened to any analysis of how Moonlight uses the color blue?
I've read a few things on it. I honestly speaking of lists of art house movies, I want to watch it again and dive more deeply because I have not.
Are you aware of how he uses blue in that movie?
Remind me. I read something about that in New York Times.
Basically, like whenever Chiron is feeling like emotion or feeling like he belongs in the world, there will be some sort of element on the screen in the shot that is blue. And if there's anything, and if he doesn't feel that way, there is like no blue on the screen at all. And then, but that's also flipped on its head where he uses blue in like different ways to. It's very, because like the scene where he's a teenager and he what's the other boy's name that he kisses on the beach?
I don't remember.
That scene is supposed to be like the blue ocean is like overtaking his senses and like making him in the moment. And at the very end, when he confesses to him that he's never let another man touch him, he confesses that as soon as the other character pulls a blue shirt out of the washing machine and puts it on.
Really? Oh, that's brilliant. I didn't know that.
And he like blue is very prevalent in that movie. And in Beale Street, it's yellow, and I can't figure out what yellow exactly means. But there was multiple points in the movie where I noticed that someone was wearing yellow or there was something yellow going on.
I can think of two costume choices immediately that fit that. I want to watch it again for that purpose. Isn't it exciting? Like that's why I wish If Beale Street Could Talk, like, was more heavily nominated, because I feel like Barry Jenkins, like I put people together like Alfonso Cuarón, Spike Lee, and Barry Jenkins all making movies. They are vastly different filmmakers who, in my opinion, all made really cool films last year. I wish he'd been nominated for Best Director. It was the favorite to win Best Score, like by a mile. And
yeah, that's another thing is I think the Beale Street I don't listen to movie soundtracks. I've listened to the Beale Street soundtrack regularly since I saw it.
Really?
And I think it's just amazing. Like I remember when I first sat down in the theater and the violin showed up with the pan of the tree.
Yeah.
My first thought was, oh my God, I'm going to love this movie.
Yes.
And I didn't like it as much as I did Her, which is my favorite movie of all time.
I do love
which is
Her.
Another love movie that has an amazing soundtrack. But I think I think the reason I was so upset is because the reason I liked Beale Street so much is because of those scenes that I was talking about accompanied by that score. It you know Josh Beckelheimer, right? I'm going to blur his name out, but
our friend.
Yes. He described it as when those reveries really work, the film transcends, and I think that's a really good word to use to describe it. Is transcendental.
It's a beautiful thing. Man, now I gotta listen. I gotta listen to that soundtrack more. But of course, wait. What about any other categories you were very excited about?
So I don't know if you heard. For anyone that might have just accidentally skipped to the middle of the podcast and missed the Marvel portion, Spider-Man is my favorite thing of all time. And Into the Spider-Verse won Best Animated Feature.
Hell yeah!
And I am very glad. I'm happy it won because it was. If any other movie would have won over Spider-Verse, I would have never watched the Oscars again.
To be honest, it's funny. I've seen 3 out of the 5 animated films. I haven't even seen Into the Spider-Verse. The other 3 major films that were contenders to win, all of which I felt were like very disappointing films. I was like, I'm happy this Into the Spider-Verse won just because it's getting such a good, excellent fan following, and none of these other films deserve it. Like, I think Wes Anderson put out his worst movie last year so far. I did not like Isle of Dogs.
Isle of Dogs?
No,
I liked it a lot, but I understand why people didn't. But Spider-Verse is probably the best Spider-Man story that's been on screen since Spider-Man 2.
Wow, yeah. I've heard that a lot of people say the same thing.
Like Spider-Man 2 is probably literally, I'm not even kidding, 1% better than Spider-Verse for me.
Okay.
Like maybe even like a 0.5%. Like it's barely above Spider-Verse. And that's honestly probably because I just grew up with Spider-Man 2 and I know it so well, but like I saw Spider-Verse 4 times.
Wow.
In theaters. And I don't want to get too personal on the podcast, but like we're talking about having seasonal depression before we started recording.
Yeah.
That brought me out of a depressive episode.
Wow.
That movie. Like I'm writing a whole video essay on it right now.
Yeah.
To hopefully go up on a future YouTube channel or something.
Excellent.
But
please do that.
Like the amount of kids that need the message, if you get hit, you can and will find a way to get back up. And that's like the message of the movie.
Yeah.
And that's like the message of Spider-Man. The amount of kids that need that and are going to need that. Just the fact that it exists and the producers and the directors were willing to put that out there.
Yeah.
I can't thank them enough for it. Like,
and I mean, this is why, I mean, when anyone acts like, wait, why are you so intense about criticizing a film or praising a film? It's because this is a reaction someone can have to a real human story being told with such an interesting modern medium. Yeah, like, I mean, this is what's at stake. When you have these experiences, then it makes you like, I have very high standards for what I watch. I'm not going to be a dick about movies I don't like necessarily, but I'm gonna stand up for good stories because they enrich your life. They enrich your life, and they double down on the qualities we want to have as human beings.
I mean, this will be my last statement on it because I could talk about this for a really long time. But so like literally the first scene of the movie. So I've never wanted to like hurt myself or do anything to myself. But imagine a kid who is going into that movie just like on a whim. Yeah. He's had such a hard time. Like imagine he's just been like bullied or like stressed out about something, and he's just thinking about doing something really drastic. And literally in the first scene of that movie, Spider-Man says, no matter how hard I get hit, I can get back up and I will get back up, because no matter how many hits I take, I still love being Spider-Man. That's just an analogy for life. Yeah. Spider-Man can be alluded to life so easily, and I honestly think that movie could save lives. I'm not even fucking kidding you.
It's, that's the thing is, storytelling always has that capacity, but when you are Hollywood, you have such a platform to do that, not just in one language, but translated to many across the entire globe. Because what you're talking about are experiences that young people experience of every culture all over the place. And we just, like, and not just young people, humans need that kind of stuff. So this makes me excited to see it, because when I can walk out of a movie and literally realize that I just watched a story that connected me to the human experience of billions of other people, this is why I'll pay $12 to sit in a theater. Like this was that good of an experience.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I I said that would be my last sentence, and it is my last sentence.
Okay, moving on.
I would encourage anyone listening to go see that movie, whether or not you're a fan of Spider-Man or not. And I'm very happy it won Best Animated Feature Film. Moving on. I think we should go into the main film of the night, which is the 2018/2019 Oscars Best Film of the Year, which is Green Book, directed by the guy that directed Dumb and Dumber. And
which is a better movie than Green Book.
So I've heard you mention, so just out of the gate, Rex really does not like this movie.
I do not.
And I think it was little less than okay. I don't think it was horrible, but I didn't think it was very good. You've mentioned like maybe a sentence or two of why you think it's terrible, but if you want to just go into why you don't think it was deserved Best Picture or even a nomination, the floor is yours.
Well, I will state this, that my criticism of the film, I am specifically talking about the writing. I find there's such an interesting discussion going on about people being like, hey, Octavia Spencer was an executive producer, so don't like shit on a movie like funded and made by a black woman. Mahershala Ali was an amazing representation of a black artist. Here's the thing. This movie is well directed, very well acted, very well shot. Okay? It is I
disagree with the third one, but
You don't think so? I honestly, I enjoy... Well, when I say very well shot, you know what I'm going to say? Let me revise that slightly. It was effectively shot to tell a simple story for a mass audience, which...
Okay.
So, and that was their only goal, and they accomplished that. It's not a very high goal, but they accomplished it. So what they were trying to accomplish with the movie, they did well. So when I say I hated the movie, it is not the way that I hate War Horse, which is like, why am I watching this like 20-hour live action documentary of a horse dying in barbed wire? Like, why am I stuck here? But it's and also it's not quite hate. I'm not saying I'm mad about this movie on the level that I'm mad about the fact that Bryan Singer, who should be in jail from what we understand, he's the director of Bohemian Rhapsody. He has...
Wait, Bryan Singer? Like X-Men Bryan Singer?
Yeah, X-Men Bryan Singer.
Wait, he directed Bohemian Rhapsody?
Yes, he did.
He's the pedophile?
Yes, he is. Is that
I
disappointing?
did not know. Oh,
I loved
my
his old movies.
God.
Isn't that sad? So
I did not know
So
that.
there's issues I get mad about in Hollywood, like Bryan Singer issues, that I'm there. He's actually slated to be directing another movie because of the success of Bohemian Rhapsody. Here's the thing. So sometimes I complain about issues like Bryan Singer. I want just make it clear, Green Book is not that kind of an issue. It is not that intense. Like to me, if you decide to go pay for a movie ticket to see Green Book, I'm not going to say you're doing the wrong thing at all. Sometimes there's moments when I'm like, I'm not going to pay for that movie because I don't want to support that individual who is a monster. To me, I want to make it clear. My hatred of it is like the way I hate the Duke Blue Devils or another basketball team. Like I don't hate it like the way I hate a child molester. You know what I mean? And honestly, I try to love everybody, but like, you know what? I'm like, I hate child molestation. You know what I mean? Like
I get what you're saying.
So yeah, but I do think this is a great example of a film that is very misguided and very frustrating considering the state of the world we're in right now. If I could encapsulate it simply, I would say that I'm not a mind reader, but I would say that the film to me in all ways felt like willful ignorance about the intersectional conversation we have about race in this country and the conversation happening about race in Hollywood. In a year with so much black excellence represented at the Oscars, you have a movie that is so tone deaf. And here's the thing, Driving Miss Daisy is the movie they always compare it to. And in 1989, I can more easily forgive a film that tried to talk about race and did a pretty good job but messed up some things. A movie that's just a little bit worse than that today, I had this reaction. This is not a fair one because I can't prove this. I almost felt it was like a fuck you. Like, oh, you guys like making movies about the black experience? We're going to make one that like almost patronizes that. I can't prove those things, but I actually walked out angry. Like, I can't believe the way they framed this story. And I can't prove that, so I've calmed down, and I'm going, I'm just going to talk about things I can prove and things I can talk about. But I was just surprised how tone-deaf this film is. Like, listen, I'm from a very white background, from a very, like, everyone in my family is my biological relative. We're all white. Like, I am not deeply well-versed in conversations about race. So, to me, I am not calling myself an expert, but when I notice some issues and weirdness, I'm like, I think you got to be it felt in times, and I'll get into reasons why. I was just like, this seems like a movie that is trying not to consider the black experience. It's considering the white experience and ways alone. And I just walked out of it going like, this, I feel, you know that feeling when someone says like mildly racist thing in front of you and you didn't know what to say and you walk away feeling like a little weird and guilty? I walked out the movie going like, I feel bad. I feel bad. Does that make sense?
Not totally. I sort of see what you're saying. I was frustrated with, you see all this plight and peril happen to Doc Shirley throughout the movie. And Tony Lip, like, nothing bad happens to him throughout the whole thing, and then he gets to go home to his wonderful family at the end. And then I guess Doc Shirley joins them, which is like, I guess like trying to his new family or something, however you want to say it. I don't know. I feel like it was, like, and as you were saying, like, I am also from a heavily white background. I have no place in like establishing any sort of credibility in the tragedy of racism, at least against me as a person. I felt like it told me like black people or other ethnicities cannot get by without the help of a white guy.
I think that message that you gathered, people have considered that. I didn't walk away with that, but I think that, to me, that is a very logical conclusion that one could draw from seeing this film, and that is not disturbing. To be like, the advancement of black people is emphasizing that they can't do it without our permission and our help.
Yeah, and that's what disturbing. I got out of the movie. That's one of the things I got out of the movie. I think so. I was trying to look at this from very different angles because I knew you didn't like it going in, and I'm someone who, if someone I respect and someone who's my friend says they like or dislike something, I will go into a movie like not intentionally with that mentality. Like if someone tells me the movie's awesome, I'll go in like, oh man, this movie's gonna be great. And then if someone tells me it's terrible, I'm gonna go in and immediately start judging it based on like anything it does wrong.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. I was trying to think about it multiple different ways, and I think if you look at it as, if you but if you sort of bring the racial aspect down and think of it as there is a man who is alone in the world in every way with race, sexuality, and family. And he finds someone that finally just sees him as a person, treats him the exact same. I think it works very well in that sense. If it didn't push race so heavily, I think it would have been a much better sort of message and story, and I could have gotten more out of it. The problem is I don't know what this is another thing that could be taken out of context, because I just want to claim they were Oscar baiting with using racism as Oscar bait.
I mean, that is, you're not the first person to make that complaint of this and other films.
I might be totally wrong in saying that, and if I am, and if I'm saying something unintentionally offensive, I'm extremely sorry. But I think they were elevating that idea in the movie to basically play it up to be more appealing to the Academy. But as I said, if you look at it as a movie about just a guy that's helping out another guy who felt alone and just treated him the same and then welcomed him into his family at the end. Like, do you agree that could be like
imagine if you had that and the racial element was not there.
I'm not saying if it wasn't there. I'm saying just if it was.
If the racial element was presented in a different way, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see. Oh yeah, this thing is that's to me a disappointing factor, is that this real story has obviously so much potential to be a really excellent way to encapsulate race relations in the middle 20th century, right? Like, this is such a weird journey, and and you're right, it's two very peculiar people, one of whom is very isolated. Yeah, it could tell a really excellent human story. It's the way that they deal. To me, that's the thing is what the movie, I think people excuse this because it's about something so heroic. I'm like, what the movie about is fine, but it's how they tell the story is the way they bring race into the story, I think is, and I say this from a place of someone who's always trying to undo his own ignorance. It to me spoke of, it is coming from a place of ignorance about race relations in the United States. And of course, as you just mentioned, I obviously don't want to offend anybody with what I'm saying. And I wish I could talk to somebody who has a really complex argument for why this is a good movie, because I'm totally willing to listen. But at the same time, I like when I have a really guttural reaction to something and I think about it deeply. I've been reading so many articles on this film, good and bad, and every good one already, like, I just didn't think it was a logical argument. But at the same time, one thing that's interesting, some people I really respect in the movie industry, Morgan Freeman, maybe not his personal life, but his work I respect a lot. He loved the film. Like if I knew Morgan Freeman, which I will never know Morgan Freeman, I would literally be calling up saying, please explain to me why you like this, because I am wrong about a lot of things with race. But, all we can do right now is go off of what knowledge do I have, how can I lay aside some prejudices and look at this the best way. And I walked away from this. Let's get into the nitty gritty, because there's some details. You just saw it for the first time today, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Any parts of it did they stand out to you that were, like, you talk about how they dealt with race. Give me some examples of ways you think that was done poorly.
Well, I don't want to sit here and say that it was done poorly. I just say they really honed in on that aspect of this guy's life, as opposed to, because there were all these scenes that you saw how this guy was that you just never got mentioned again.
Yeah.
Because there was like the scene where he got caught in the shower with the other guy. Mm-hmm. That his sexuality was never mentioned again.
I know. Very almost dismissive of that whole portion.
What was the other part? He kept talking about his brother that he didn't know, that he didn't keep in contact with. Nothing ever happened with that.
Yeah, I know.
And that's what I was trying to talk about before, is in the 60s, if you were a man over 25, mm-hmm. maybe like 30, you were white, you were straight, you had a wife and 2 kids. Mm-hmm. And I really liked that part of the movie. I think that part was good. The scene where he's outside in the rain and he says, if I'm not black enough, if I'm not white enough, if I'm not man enough, then what am I? Yeah. I thought that scene was awesome. Yeah. I really liked that scene.
Yeah.
Because, as I was saying, it's just a guy who feels like he isn't welcome anywhere, and there's just another guy who just treats him like another guy. You know what I mean? I think they just really went with the whole. I mean, I don't know, man. It could be like an allegory for how racism is, like mm-hmm. like how black people just aren't really accepted by a lot of people outside of their community, and.
Which is, I don't want to assume negative things of the writers. I think that's what they were trying to do. I just think, to me, the thing that makes me, like, when I look at each individual scene, that's one scene that really does work, when he, like, really proclaims his frustration about his identity. The thing that, if I could, like, boil down, if you think about, like, 2 characters and why their relationship is funny, like Dumb and Dumber. Why is it funny? Because both of them are dumb. Right. Name 2 other characters in a film or something, and why they're like something about their relationship makes it funny. Like
Step Brothers, they're both dumb.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking. Who was? So you had Dean Martin, and who was his little sidekick?
I cannot answer this question.
Son of a man. I'm trying to think of. Just name any comedy right now.
Any comedy at all?
Name a comedy. Yeah.
What men want.
What men want, right? So like the joke there is that like it's getting the best of what men want. Yeah, okay, the new one. Never mind. What men want. It's getting, this lady gets the best of all the guys because she can read their minds. It's almost like she is silly, but in the end of all those sequences, just by looking at the trailer, I can tell she's getting the best of all the men in all those situations, and they're the punchline, even though occasionally she's a little bit awkward, right? I would say, like in Anchorman, for instance, even though Ron Burgundy is like getting a lot of punchlines in, the end of the scene usually makes him look childish and silly and makes Veronica look like in control and powerful. So even though they're making some sexist jokes, the way the scene rolls out is that you have the more logical person you want to represent as the good guy, in quotations, winning, and you have someone like Ron Burgundy learning something at the end, right? If I had to say in Green Book, the thing I thought this aloud while I was watching it 2 weeks ago, is the thing that made me mad about it is I think so many of the scenes, the humor, what was being poked fun at was black excellence. It was that this guy, educated, amazingly talented human being, Dr. Shirley, his excellence and his like peculiarity as a black person, like a black person who is excellent at something, was the point of the joke. You know, he's so stuffy, he doesn't know anything about fried chicken. He's never even heard of he's never even heard a song by Little Richard. Things that don't even make sense. That the joke, I feel like the end of the scene usually had Dr. Shirley had to kind of humble himself to come to Tony's point of view. Very rarely, if ever, did the joke and how, because honestly, Tony also, you have the idea of like the funny guy and the straight man. No joke about orientation there, because the straight man was Dr. Shirley in this. But like the idea of like the straight man in the comedy is the one who's kind of like getting laughed at, and or like this funny guy's kind of making a joke at his expense. Dr. Shirley was not just always the joke was at his expense, but usually the subject they're joking about has to do with his race and the fact that he is an excellent black man at something. So, you know what, I think one thing that makes me mad about that is their little arguments. What it is, it's like a spat between two people that get overlooked in our country: working class white people and black people. And to me, I honestly kind of that being posed against each other again, I was just like, why? Like, their discussions. I hate that. How did it end up? Usually, Dr. Shirley's the one in the rain professing his vulnerability, and Lip is never really in that uncomfortable position.
Yeah, no, that's my main problem with the movie, is that you never see Tony Lip really understand the plight of this guy.
Not at all.
It's just he happens to fix everything for him.
Which is funny. You think about, like, if he's the main character, he never really goes through a deep conflict, does he? He's really chill the whole movie.
He does not.
He's never actually pressured to change or examine himself, which is also just bad storytelling, in my opinion. But, yeah, I just, and on top of the fact, there are two things that Tony does in the start of the movie that are blatantly, actively racist, that are never addressed. He never apologizes for. He just starts acting sort of nicer. He does that thing with the two men who are working in his house on maybe, I think, bringing in an appliance or something, and they're black. His wife serves them lemonade, and he takes their glasses and he throws them away, even though they're not meant to.
Oh, okay. That's why that happened. So I was really confused at that scene because there was two. Try not to swear. There was two ladies next to me who had their phones on full brightness.
Oh my gosh.
So I had to get up and move to a different row. And when I sat down, he was throwing the glasses away, and I totally missed why that happened.
Yeah, he didn't want to have to drink after black men.
So thank you for bringing that up, because I was really confused why he threw the glasses away.
So he does that at the beginning, and also he uses a racial slur to refer to one of it looks like a man of Central Asian or Indian descent who works for Dr. Shirley. He uses a racial slur for an Asian person. So he
does.
In the beginning of the movie, he's openly doing racist things, and with zero confession, zero apology, zero conflict to change. He never has a moment where he has to choose between his comfort and supporting a person of color. He just somehow magically easily transformed into a nicer guy.
Well, I would argue the scene where the other Italian guys offer him the job with higher pay.
Yeah,
I would say that scene exemplifies that a little bit.
Yeah,
and he turns it down.
That's a good point. I think there's moments like that just were not strong enough. Another moment that I realized they were trying to round things out, but they just didn't really. Is like I mentioned before, that Tony is teaching Dr. Shirley so many important things. I'll teach you how to be black, from the white guy. There is the scenes when Dr. Shirley then teaches him how to write a love letter. But all the things of Dr. Shirley being in control, to me, all of those scenes, or Dr. Shirley being treated well, were much more shallow than the depths of what Dr. Shirley goes through. And in those moments, to me, it's like I said, I think to you before, that to me, it's a movie about race relations just from the white experience. Not real.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a well-rounded film of both.
Sort of similar to this conversation.
Yeah. I'm excited. Can't stop talking.
I don't know. The reason it frustrates me is because I can see so many times where this movie could have been really great,
Yeah.
and it just never really gets there.
Mm-hmm.
And they, from what I understand, just sort of use this premise of racism is bad.
Yeah.
There's this thing that's bad. Do you know it's bad? Oh, everyone already knows it's bad? Well, let me make a movie about it.
Yeah.
They use this thing in order to basically just win awards, which I think is like, if you're doing something like it's the reason why. Another thing that can be taken out of context, and this might actually offend people, but it's what I truly believe. The influx of gay characters in TV shows is because people want more people to watch their shows, and they don't give a shit about actually having a gay character in their show. They want people that identify with that to like their show. That's what I truly believe is happening with a lot of things.
Pandering.
And if you don't have a character that is in the story because that's like who his character is, and you just throw him in there because, oh, people will go see it now.
Yeah.
That's more offensive to me than, not having them in. It's not more offensive. It's just as offensive as saying, like, I'm never going to put a gay character in my movie because I don't like gay people.
Yeah.
Like, some people might disagree with me on that. Maybe some people even get mad at me for saying that, but that's what I believe. And same thing with Green Book is if you're just going to use that as a way to win awards for your movie, I think that's just as cruel as, not hiring someone of color.
I totally agree with you on that point, but I know people do disagree with how to correct these measures, and some people think
no, I know that there's a very large amount of people that are doing that because they want to tell those stories.
Mm-hmm. You're right. You're right.
I am not speaking against that at all.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I'm speaking against is using those characters and using those communities as a way to get more attention for your work.
Yeah.
I think that's terrible.
Yeah. And, even if... I mean, that's honestly what I suspect about the filmmakers of Green Book. That's how it all felt to me. It felt like pandering. It did not feel sincere. Even if I just decide I'm going to assume the very, very best of these filmmakers, I'm also then doubly disappointed by the response from the Academy, that there's been so much discussion about this movie and so many people were willing to vote for it, even when there was an open discussion about how it was a problematic film. And how, is it poison? Is it going to kill black people? No. But should we be doing better than that these days? Absolutely, yes. So I was almost more disappointed by the response that it was going to be named Best Film of the Year than I was in the film itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. I mean, it's just such a mixed bag because I don't think the film was bad, and I do think that when it did, it's a very surface level, like, this is bad, a very surface level approach to the problem that we have dealing with racism in this country. And I think it does that on a pretty good level, but, I mean, if you're not going to delve into the actual issues and sort of, like, be a commentary on...
Yeah.
Because, like, if this movie would have come out in the 90s, it would have been revolutionary.
Yeah.
But everyone knows this is an issue now. You don't have to tell us that this is an issue.
Yeah.
Which is what I think Green Book did. And whether or not something like that is needed in today's culture, which it definitely is, we definitely need those commentaries to get people thinking and to get people knowing about this problem that we have.
Yeah.
You can't just...
It felt pretty dated.
Yeah, you can't just, like, say this is bad.
Yeah.
You have to, like, show us, like, this is an approach to fixing it, which, as I was saying earlier, you just watch Tony Lip not have any consequence at all to his actions throughout the white guy. And
it's hard to watch that and it not be examined by the filmmaker right next to a black man do nothing wrong again and again and again, and do nothing illegal again and again and again, and get so many negative consequences.
Which some people might argue that's the point.
But I would say if that was the point, I would just argue from the mechanics how the story was told, they didn't drive that point home enough. And if they were trying to do that, I could assume the best of them. It just was not the best film of the year, and I don't think it. I mean, we're talking about movies like Moonlight and Into the Spider-Verse that like take these moments of human experiences and just make them so deeply felt by many people. Yeah, this film didn't quite get there. And if they wanted to make just an entertaining film, make another Dumb and Dumber. Like make another movie that is fun and goofy and doesn't have much at stake. This movie had a lot at stake, and it's a disappointing thing to see be lifted up when a movie like If Beale Street Could Talk came out in the same year, and excellent films were around it. And then, like, to be honest, if only there was a movie about indigenous people and race relations and class and gender. Oh wait, yes, there was. It's called Roma. And not only was it about a lot of important things, but it dealt with them in a respectful way. So it just is the end of the world. Is this another tragedy, like finding out that Harvey Weinstein really is the terrible man we thought he was? No, this is not a huge big deal, right? But
I just think it could have been done better.
Absolutely could have.
And I don't think it's a horrible movie. I'd give it a 5 out of 10. I don't think it should have won Best Picture.
No, definitely not.
I do think either Mahershala Ali or Viggo Mortensen should have won Best Actor.
Yeah, Mahershala being supporting actor didn't make any sense to me.
I don't know. I haven't seen Bohemian Rhapsody, so I can't comment on Rami Malek's performance. I've heard it's great, but
let me say that both the main actors in this film were really, honestly amazing to watch. They're great. That's the hard thing.
Like I always notice when like either people drop their accents or break character.
Yeah,
they didn't break it a single time.
These are two of the best actors in the A-list of Hollywood.
Yeah.
So it was almost fun. It's funny, as I'm frustrated with the story, there are moments when Tony Lip, I'm like, that's really Viggo Mortensen. He was lost in the character so beautifully. That's why I'm maybe more frustrated, because like two actors I like a lot in this. And I think it was really well edited and directed. Like, it was really obviously a guy who knows how to make a comedy made this movie. He made a really tight comedy. But the Alvin the Chipmunks 4 next year will come out and win Best Picture, and so we're just going downhill from here. We'll look back at Green Book fondly, probably, as the Academy gets more and more frustrating every single year. But I don't know why I keep watching it.
I don't know. Do you have anything else you want to say about Green Book at all? You had like a whole sheet of notes. You didn't even look at them. Do you memorize them? That's
because my computer died. But I think I hit up just about everything. To me, like, I think having these discussions, and why I said, hey, we should do an episode on Green Book, is because I hope that even when a movie like this is so disappointing, it can be a teachable moment, right? Like, if I would love to talk to any of my friends of color about this movie. And
that's another thing too, is like, if anyone disagrees about what we're saying, please just contact us and just talk to us.
Because these moments, that's the great thing, is this movie, like I said, this movie isn't a tragedy. So even though it's poorly made, I want to have this discussion, because a successful film would be a great moment to talk about race relations and learn. I think a movie that I think is not very successful like this in telling a good story also could be a really awesome opportunity. So to me, there is a certain enjoyment I have about ripping a movie apart I hated. I'm not really going for that right now. I'm trying. I think I just learned so much through cinema about the way other people see the world, and that's why I keep obsessively reading reviews of this movie, trying to understand other people's perspectives. So I kind of hope that there's like a silver lining to these bad moments. It makes people rethink how we tell stories, and make sure that we're really letting other people's voices be heard. So
totally agree.
So that means I will never see a film again, and this is my last time ever talking with you about movies. So it's been nice, Oliver.
Oh, thanks, man. It was great for you coming on the show again.
Yeah, thanks. It was fun.
Dude, we got to go for 6 more minutes. We got to hit 2 hours.
Okay, for 6 more minutes.
Just anything about movies. Just bring it up.
Anything about movies.
Just say it.
Anything about movies.
Or anything at all. Just start talking.
love how unintentionally funny A Star Is Born was again. And
Did you
again.
see it?
Yeah, I did.
My mom. So funny story about that. Before you go into your anecdote, my mom saw that movie, and I thought she would love it. She loves stuff like that, like very straightforward. She loves music. She comes home. She went with my dad. She comes home that night, and I was like, "Oh, Mom, how's the movie?" She doesn't say it's bad. She doesn't say she liked it. That was the worst movie I have ever seen in my life. I was like, "Oh, all right." I'm like, and I asked her, like, my mom is someone who's very just like, she's very emotionally opinionated. And I was like, "Why was it bad?" She just goes, "It just was."
Because I feel anger. It was so hard because I really wanted to like that movie so bad.
You know it's the 4th remake of that movie?
Yeah, I know.
4th.
I realized at the end of it, there's a really interesting point where what's his name? Sam Elliott's character, he says to Lady Gaga's character that, yeah, I mean, they see something beautiful in you. Because, music, it's just 12 notes again and again. But what you do is special with those notes. I almost felt like the end of the movie's trying to make an analogy of, yeah, this is a remake, but it's about doing something special with the same material. And I was like, okay, that's actually brilliant. That's in the script. I just wish you had done something more special with the material. I will say, though, the one thing that surprised me, I've never been a big fan of Bradley Cooper. If I had to pick who was the best performance that I saw last year, Bradley Cooper in that movie, of all the wildness of that film, he plays a guy with alcoholism and a star and a man-child. He plays such an interesting, sad, complex human being. That was one of the things I walked away from, that I was secretly hoping he would somehow pull an upset and win Best Actor. I rarely care that much about one person winning over another when it comes to acting. I was surprised. I'm like, I can't believe I'm rooting for Brad. I've never been a Bradley Cooper fan. He was great in that movie. I was also happy. I cannot stop thinking about Olivia Colman in The Favorite, when my favorite moment in that freaking movie, and I keep doing this to my brother, who's my roommate. I keep getting in his face and saying, "Look at me! Look at me! Look at me!" Because then she does that to a guard, and the guard's not supposed to look at her because she's the queen. And then he looks at her, and she screams, "How dare you!" As soon as he looks at her, how insane she was in that movie. I saw it in a theater, and I was the only person who chuckled. I was the only person who kept laughing, and everyone. I felt bad. It was such a dark film.
I seriously had to cover my mouth during the scene where she's eating the cake and then throws up in the bucket and then continues eating the cake.
I know.
I was laughing so hard that I had to cover my mouth.
When she says that one bit about, oh no, it's fine, we can spend the money, we've won the war, and Rachel Weisz is like, but we have to go to war again, and she goes, oh, I did not know that. She's just that's one thing that is,
or the part where she's walking down the hallway and hears the music outside and just goes, "Turn it off!"
Yeah, she just flips out for no, and it makes you feel bad because you realize she's such a tragic character. She's had 17 miscarriages and lost babies. She's abused her entire life.
No, dude, they just became rabbits.
Gross. Oh, that's disgusting. But yeah, that was maybe the most fun I've had in a movie in the last year. The Favorite was so creepy to me, and I love. I love horror films that make me laugh a little bit. That's why I loved Krampus a few years ago. Movies that are showing you something dark, but it makes me laugh. That's my sense of humor. So yeah, there's some awesome movies out there, and we have Blue Will Smith to look forward to coming up in a couple months, which is gonna be beautiful.
Yeah.
Nice.
Blue Will Smith, dude. More like
Fresh blue of Prince Aladdin. Damn it.
more like Pooh, Sil.
He's more like Men in Blue now. He's more like a he like Tobias Funke. He blew himself.
I just blew myself.
Yeah,
I'm a never nude. There are literally dozens of us.
that's the spin on this film. He's actually a never nude blue man group.
Speaking of going back to Infinity War, did you know there's a Tobias Funke cameo in Infinity War?
What?
So you know the scene where they're at the collector's room?
Yeah.
So when it pans out to Thanos interrogating the collector, there is a test tube vessel with Tobias Funke in it.
Like
Confirmed by the Russo brothers, it's Tobias Funke.
I respect them so much.
I'll show it to you after we're done recording.
That's beautiful.
It's amazing.
He is a relic of this universe. He's a terrible, wonderful creature.
He's been collected by the collector.
That is so fantastic. I hope they know David Cross. I wonder if they know him personally. That's how they got that in there.
I don't know, man. Maybe.
That's pretty great.
But yeah, I found that and I was like, I've seen maybe a handful of episodes of Arrested Development, but knowing that, it was an awesome thing to find out because it's like confirmed. Like they said, yep, that's Tobias.
That's right. If you're gonna have a crazy hard job like that, you got to put something in there that you can get to reveal it in your press circuit interviews. Like, yeah, Dr. Funky, he is in the test tube. That's a glorious thing.
Yeah, man. We made it.
Is it 2 hours?
We made it 2 hours.
We've been talking for 2 hours.
2 hours.
How about that?
Half of it was Dragon Ball.
Yeah. Well, look who's talking, me and you. So that's probably gonna happen. Thanks for having me back,
dude. Thanks for being on the show, dude. Like, you know how to talk, man. Like, I'm not saying that like as like you're annoying or something. I'm saying like you know how to put things understandably.
Thank you. Honestly, like when I want to understand something, if you're not willing to try to talk about it, you won't fully understand it. So I love getting an opportunity to talk with someone who has a great brain like yours. And yeah, this show's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, man. Thank you again for being on the show. It's fun to do.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm hoping that I'll be posting it online, so make sure you share that shit because I'm trying to get it out there.
Yes. Oh, definitely.
I've been doing this. I almost said full time. I've been doing it for 40 hours a week. No, I've been putting a lot of work into this show. So
it shows already.
So hopefully it is interesting to people. I think this episode will be. So again, for the third time, thank you for being on. This is No Degree Podcast STS. This will be on YouTube, by the way. I'll upload these portions to YouTube. I'm being filmed. Yeah. There's a camera there. There's a camera there. There's a camera there.
You guys. Oh my God.
Chris Hansen, what are you doing here?
Hey.
Why? I didn't do it. This is fine. All right. This is No Degree Podcast SDS, episode 2. Thank you everybody for listening. This is Rex Trogdon and Olive Mulliken, and we will be signing off. Thank you for listening.